12 News is your local election headquarters. Now we continue our Where They Stand series on WPRI.com. I'm Ray Bakari. Joining us today is Todd Patalano, who is the Democratic nominee for Rhode Island Senate District 26 this election cycle. The district is located in the city of Cranston, and regardless of who wins this seat in November, there will be a new state senator for this district in the next session because the current state senator, Frank Lombardi, opted out of seeking re-election this year. Todd, it's good to have you here.
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. In 60 seconds or less, why do you want to be the next state senator?
Well, I think if you look at my background and my expertise, I grew up in the city. I was raised in the city, in District 26 my whole life. I've worked in my father's small business on Cranston Street. He had a gas station, two oil businesses. I delivered oil throughout the whole Arlington district. Grew up, wanted to be a police officer, saw the police in the area, wanted to emulate them. Tried out for the police department, been a police officer for 30 years, serving the community, worked in the community, and I continue to stay in District 26. I have no plans on leaving. I raised a family, 3 boys, worked out in little leagues, basketball leagues. We've met a lot of people, done a lot of good things, worked with the community. Right now, we have a community outreach effort in the police department where I work, and everything's going great. We want to double down on my commitment and work with the community and give back a little more than what the average person can. And in my position, I think that I have the resources, the experience, the knowledge, and the expertise, and being a lifelong resident of District 26 is important because you meet so many people and make so many, touch so many people in so many ways.
If you're elected to serve as state senator for this district, one of the biggest votes that you're going to do every year is the state's budget. Currently, it's around $14 billion, but this is where the tightening of the belt is going to happen because all the American Rescue Plan Act money has been spent. There's going to be a lot of money going to the rebuilding of the Washington Bridge, and there's a projected deficit. So I know you don't have the budget in front of you, but going in, what are some items on your mind that are must-stays in that next budget, and then maybe some things that could end up being cut?
So in Cranston, as the second in command of the police department, I oversee a $30 million budget every year. Myself and the colonel, we go through it line by line. It's a line item budget. It's a $323 million budget. So we do our part. We're always looking at ways to be more efficient, more effective, and streamline things. I've also noticed that in the state budget, based on recent news articles, it is a $14.1 billion budget with a projected shortfall of $260 million.
Yep.
So that's a big number. If I'm elected, I have no problem in rolling up my sleeves, going line by line, and going through the budget and looking for ways to streamline, make things more efficient, and closing that gap. That's a big gap, and it needs to be closed.
Any line items on mind that come going into there, if you're elected, like maybe social services or anything on mind that you look at, like, okay, maybe this needs to be cut?
So I don't see any cuts, and it's a global settlement. When you look at a budget, you got to do things globally. You can't just look at one separate line item because each line item offsets another. So you have to really, there's a lot of work that goes on in a budget. I know that from experience, so I would not say we're going to cut one specific issue. I would like to look at the budget as a whole and be part of that process, and I have no problem rolling up my sleeves and making those tough decisions.
On the same ballot that your race is on, there's also going to be question number 1, which is a statewide question, and that's asking Rhode Islanders if there should be a constitutional convention or not. This question comes up every 10 years, typically the year that ends in the number 4. How do you feel about that question?
So the constitutional convention, there's a lot of pros, there's a lot of cons. The pros are it gives the people a voice and it gives them some decision-making process. The problem with that is you can't hold anybody accountable. So if we appoint people after this constitutional convention to make these decisions, there's no accountability process for them. They can make whatever decision they like. Me as an elected official, I want you to hold me accountable. I want to make those decisions. So I think it's important that you have the people who you elect to make these decisions, not somebody that can't be held, really can't hold them accountable. I want you to hold me accountable. Every 2 years, if I don't make the right decisions for my district, for my people, you vote me out. So I support the 2-year election. That's why every 2 years people get to come in, they vote. Are you doing the right thing? I think that's a checks and balances, and that's why it's important that although the Constitutional Convention has some pros and cons, I think it's more important that we let the people, such as myself, if I'm elected, to make those decisions. If I don't make the right decision, you vote me out.
Just to pin that down for the viewer watching at home, so you oppose the question?
Right now I oppose the Constitutional Convention because I think that you have to hold your elected officials accountable. I have no problem every 2 years coming up before the people and saying, did you make the right decision? When you put someone else who is not an elected official that's appointed, there's no accountability.
education is also another big issue you would have to focus on as a state senator if elected. A lot of legislators come in with their own educational reform that they champion, whether it's charter schools, focus on higher ed, universal pre-K, we can list them all, but what would be the one educational reform you would champion if elected?
So I grew up in Cranston. Cranston West High School has a vocational, it's called the Career and Technical Vocational Center in Cranston, and it has a lot of different programs. I myself grew up, I went through the building and construction program, auto mechanics. I thought it was a great tool. Today we see so many people college isn't for everybody. Some people are great with their hands. They're very handy. They like to use their hands and have a job that's hands-on. I think right now, if you look at the workforce, we have people, we're short on builders, right? Anybody in the building trades, plumbers, electricians, healthcare, public safety. We need more people. And I think the career and technical aspects, the vocational schools, we need to increase those, give them more options. A kid may not want to go to college. He may want to, he enjoys being an electrician. Let him get in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, 4 years of a career and technical school, get them ready for the workforce. And those jobs are well-paying jobs. They're careers. They're not just these part-time employments. They're full-time, great jobs that you can provide for a family, have kids, have the dream of the house, the white picket fences. So I think that the vocational, the career and technical aspect of education system needs to be expanded. And I've seen that. I've walked, actually, I had a young girl, she was in her late 20s, and she said, what are you going to do for the vocational system? She was she worked as like a judge in some of these programs when kids come through and they build projects. And we talked about it, and I said, that's absolutely the best aspect of, at least in my eyes, one of the best things that I did in high school was going in a vocational school. And my kids, all three of them, have gone through the entrepreneurship program at Cranston West High School, and we have a great career and technical program. And if we could just expand it, not only in Cranston but statewide, I think you'd have a lot more people in the workforce, and they would know what they want to do early on in life. And if they like it, the old saying, if you love what you're doing, you'll never work a day in your life. So I think we need to expand that, but in the educational aspect.
My final question is more on the political side. You are in a district that's in the true political battleground this year in Rhode Island, city of Cranston. There's also a mayoral race a little bit higher in that ballot. Who are you supporting between incumbent Mayor Ken Hopkins, the Republican, and Democrat Robert Ferry, the citywide councilman?
So I'm focused on my own race, obviously. It's a busy time, but I work with both of them. Rob Ferry, a great guy. The mayor of Cranston, great guy. Work with both of them, know them personally and professionally. So I'm staying out of that race, and whoever wins, I look forward to working with them.
Understood, but you are going to be casting a ballot, so you don't have any preference between the two that you'd be willing to share?
I'm going to work with whoever wins.
Sounds good. Todd, thank you for giving us your time for this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And thank you for tuning into this edition of Where They Stand. Remember, 12 News is your local election headquarters. We have a full voter guide and other local election interviews for this cycle available on WPRI.com. For now, Ray Bakari, 12 News.